Hi, and a warm welcome to our webinar about how to build equity plans with precision. Um, we are doing this together today with Jessica, who will be presenting herself in a few minutes. But before I give the stage to Jessica, I start with saying a few words about myself and All Shares. So I'm Anna Eriksson, and I'm located here in Finland, Helsinki, and All Shares is actually headquartered here in the Nordics. We have quite recently become colleagues together with Jessica, and now that's why we're hosting this webinar about plan design together, since it's going to be also a new product that's going to be offered also in the US. But yeah, All Shares, just quick few words. We're a European company. We do both plan design and also incentive plan administration. We do pay benchmarking and all of the things that you need to have and do regarding compensation. But yeah, Jessica, please go
Yeah.
ahead and present yourself.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here with Anna today. She really is the plan design guru, so very lucky to be alongside her. But a little bit about me, I joined Stock and Option Solutions in 2018 as a year-end project manager. I did not have any experience in stock administration or the equity world. Actually, my bachelor's is in theater, very different field. But since joining SOS, I have experienced almost every role in the organization. And I have learned multiple equity platforms and now have a wealth of knowledge in all things equity and learning about plan design. I've achieved my ECA and I now lead our client relations for our equity compensation solutions. And I'm here today with Anna because I am now a proud equity geek who loves to talk to our clients and team members about best practices, all things, importance of plan design and making your equity plan inclusive. So a little bit about SOS now an all shares company is we've become this really end-to-end equity management. And we are a household name when it comes to outsourced stock administration and helping the stock admin team. But now we get to take it to a larger scale with all shares, offering things like plan design, employee education, pay transparency, so many new ways that we're able to help our clients. So I'm so excited to be here to chat about why you should have a strong plan design and what it entails. So let's start with our strategy. Really, the thing you need to be clear on is where's your company going? What is important? So at my time at SOS as an onboarding manager, one of the first conversations that we would have with our clients is, what is your corporate strategy? We want to understand where they are at in their company's life cycle and know what's important to them today and in the future. And really having an understanding of your company's corporate strategy is the first step, in my opinion, to creating a strong equity plan. And so we typically look at it in 5 different maturity stages that I'll go through: growth, efficiency, innovation, stability, and diversification. So let's start with the growth companies. These are typically new companies, pre-IPO, aggressively trying to gain market share and expand their revenues and operations at a significantly faster pace than their competitors. So they often want to dominate the marketplace and explore new markets, perhaps globally, like all shares, where there is room to accelerate their brand and keep generating new revenue. The efficiency companies, some of my favorites, they're streamlining processes. They're looking for better ways to do with less, whether they're improving processes or looking for those best practices. They're typically looking to do the minimum requirements. Innovation companies are often developing a new product. They can be competing for the best and brightest talent in the marketplace. Maybe they require the best engineers, IT, software, etc. Some of these companies may really be struggling to attract and keep the best talent. RSUs may help. Stability companies, they already have a really good corporate or business plan. They don't really need to change course. Their objective is to maintain their current market position, operations, and steady the course. So think more of that retention grant. And finally, the diversification companies are more mature in its growth. They start to acquire additional companies like SOS, and they are diversifying their offerings. They're buying other companies and acquiring their resources, their client talents, and are at times struggle to bring all of those systems together and all of those people under maybe one HR roof. So for me, this is so important in plan design because we need clarity. We need to know what the company goals are, as well as where they are in relation to their stage of growth and what their market challenges are. So we can properly structure the plan design and pick the correct equity type to achieve the company strategy. So Anna, you want to tell us a little bit more about what is important in designing that plan once you know the strategy?
Yes. And it's a really good point. The strategy is a really crucial part of the plan design because it kind of sets the foundation on what are you going to actually trying to achieve, where is the direction you want to steer these people to that you're offering these plans to. But yeah, I'm going to actually just talk a bit about a few different topics that are really important when designing an incentive plan. Well, one of the important things is performance metrics and how you can choose the right ones. There are a huge variation of different performance metrics that can be measured, and how you actually can find the right ones can be quite tricky. It's really often good to go back to the strategy and see what you're actually trying to aim at and what are the kind of building blocks that you need to check to reach that long-term strategy. What are the metrics that can support this road towards your for example 3-year goal or 5-year goal? The performance metrics can be quite tricky because there's a lot of variation also how complex they are. There might be quite complex metrics with a lack line of sight, so that the participant might not really be able to affect them or actually understand them. But then there are also more simpler metrics. And this all goes down to what your target group actually looks like. So who are the participants? What are the things that they can affect? What are the things that they can actually understand? And which makes it also important when you're steering these people. The smaller the target group, the easier it typically is to also use more complex metrics. But immediately when the target groups gets bigger, it's really important to think about the simplicity there as well. Then if we look at the target setting, another really important thing here. So once you have decided on what you're actually measuring, so what's the direction you're steering towards, is then what needs to be achieved to actually get a payout. And here it's also a really strong part of the incentive plan itself. Sometimes companies tend to put really difficult metrics because they want to achieve a lot. But then in these cases, you quite quickly can lose the incentivizing power if the minimum level is already too difficult to reach and it feels impossible. Then it won't keep on incentivizing. The same thing with the maximum is if it comes too quickly, you actually might stop there. Even if that would be reached, you won't start continuing kind of working towards a better performance because the incentive plan had too kind of narrow of a range, or maybe too easy targets. So it's really important to think where the ranges are. What are you happy to pay of? So what's the right level to start paying from, but still keeping in mind that it should be incentivizing in different, also if the market conditions change, if you have strategic shifts, if there are kind of external factors that are affecting what levels you can reach within these. So we typically say, because I'm kind of as a rule of thumb, that the minimum level should be reached in 90% of the cases. So it should really be a thing that you most likely will reach, which also keeps the incentive plan on the ongoing years. When you have new plans, the participants believe in it, they trust in the plan. And then the maximum should be like a 10% chance of reaching. So it should be possible to reach max, but it shouldn't be really probable to actually reach it. And then combining these both two and actually the whole structure and when you're choosing models is complexity and then clarity. Sometimes these really great plans sound great in theory, having multipliers and hurdles and tricky metrics, but then there's a trade-off if the participants don't understand it. So it's really important to think, how can we make sure that this plan is something that the participants can understand, but that it's going to that direction that you want to steer towards? So usually it is a bit of a balance there. So you could add maybe a more complex metric, but it's nice to then have another metric that is easy to understand, or a structure that can be quite tricky, but then also communication is key, right? So if you communicate it well, you can maybe add a bit more complexity, but it's important to look at the balance there, and that it's an understandable plan. Then if we look at the plan taxation, it's an important thing in when planning in designing an incentive plan. So almost all countries have different tax efficient ways of having incentive plans, and they might vary between, if you're a private company or a public company, there might be different ways of designing a plan to make it really tax efficient. But sometimes, of course, it could be the route that you're taking. So you're really looking at tax efficiency. But it's also important to keep in mind if that kind of model or the structure is the right one for you. So going back to kind of the strategy, is it steering towards the right direction? Then it might be important to think how much is the kind of value of paying less tax in comparison to having the right model that works for you. And especially when we look at kind of global companies, if you have employees in several different countries, there is of course, some companies might kind of look all the really tax beneficial ways in each and every country, but that might actually make the whole structure quite complex and also more difficult to communicate. So sometimes it's good to think about it. Of course, it's really good to know what are the most tax beneficial ways to implement a plan, but then thinking about how complex can it then get. And then regarding taxation in kind of overall, it's super important to communicate again. So how is the plan going to be taxed, to kind of try to minimize the amount of badwill when the reward is paid out, and it's supposed to be a really, really happy event. But if there are kind of surprises with the taxation, it might actually end up being a bit more negative, even if it only should be a positive thing to get a nice payout from an incentive plan. So here I couldn't emphasize it more. Remember to communicate and that it's really clear to the participants. But yeah, these four things are really good to keep in mind when you're designing an incentive plan. I think if you tick those boxes, you're already on a good path towards a great incentive plan. But please, Jessica.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I constantly am reminding myself that these are incentive plans, right? Like all of these things need to incentivize the team member and the company to that next level of growth. And I love all of those concepts that you have to like keep in mind, right? The complexity versus clarity, so important. And with that, equity, the goals here is to the goals are to attract, retain, and motivate, right? That is the whole purpose of equity. And I really do think today retention is the toughest one. We talk about, the job field and everyone's jumping from job to job at the moment. No one stays for more than a couple years. Uh, so the goal with equity can be to attract and retain, and that retention and making sure it is an incentive to them. This is so important to some of these employees and can be life changing if they understand the importance of the equity. And so it starts with that plan design and making sure that you're creating the best plan for your company, but also that will motivate your employees to stay or to join the company, and really looking at which equity vehicles you're using based on that strategy and based on all these things we've talked about already, right? But my favorite part of the puzzle is the employee education. I love this piece, and honestly, kind of my passion project with SOS is reintroducing our employee education program. And so, really, it's top of mind for me at the moment, and I've seen it in the field as well and all the conferences we go to. And to me, it really is understanding who your employees are and personalizing the education to them and to your plan, right? It needs to speak to how it is designed and how these vehicles are helping them grow, and which ultimately helps that company's strategy and helps, move the needle a bit. And at the end of the day, it does build trust and ownership, right? All shares is all about own it. We are part of the company. And if the employees don't understand that this equity is part of their ownership in the company, then you've done something wrong. So it starts from the very basics that we talked about in the last slide of those four things you need to consider. But we always have to keep the why are we doing this in mind, and why is this so important? Why are we spending so much time on the design? Is we need to keep retaining our talent, and we need to keep educating them and make it easier to educate them as well. So I know there's some further conversations about how to get more out of your plan as well. Anna, you want to tell us about benchmarking?
Yeah, of course. And it's actually a good thing to keep in mind also when you're looking at the retention perspective, because you can benchmark a lot of things within the incentive plan design, and it's a really important part. And one part of that is to actually benchmark the salaries and the total compensation levels. So it's a very, very efficient way of looking and ensuring that the level of compensation especially the total compensation, including the variable pay, so the short-term incentives and the long-term incentives, are on the right level. So kind of to ensure that they are on a competitive level, you also need to look at the competitors, right? Who are the companies that you are losing people to, and make sure that they at least won't be leaving because of the level of their pay. Another thing to benchmark within incentive plan design is also, of course, the structure. So we quite often within these projects, we do look at a set of peers, could be kind of market peers from your country, or it could be also global peers. Looking what they are doing. So what kind of plans do they have? What are they measuring? Who are they including in their plan? So what size of target group, for example, are they offering this to? Which gives you then the opportunity to ensure that you are market aligned, so that you have a competitive plan that also your competitors then will be offering to the people that they try to maybe then hire. But with benchmarking, it's always, of course, really important to think what's the best way for you. So not to kind of copy, but to get some inspiration and also know what's going on. I think it's always important that you can kind of argue why you are doing in a certain way if your competitors or your peer is doing it in a different way. It might be all right. So your situation might be different, and therefore you need to have some kind of a different plan design. But it's still good to have a look there as well. But yeah, it's a good thing to benchmark and understand what's going on, yeah, it's good to also, when you're putting up the peer group, it's important to think who should be included. So who are you competing with? Who are you losing employees to? If it's a company that you're not actually losing your employees to, then maybe they're not the right company to benchmark, especially the salaries. So a lot of important things to consider when benchmarking, but a very important and interesting exercise, because it can also give you ideas. You can see trends, what's going on in the market, what's, if someone is doing something new, then you know about it, and you can also consider, should we do it too? So yeah, a very, very interesting and important part of plan design.
It can kind of get you ahead a little bit too, right? Again, it's hard to retain, but it can keep you that one step forward.
Exactly, exactly. And at least you know, that's the important part, that if you don't follow the market, then at least it's a kind of it's a decision that has been made and not a mistake or something that you didn't know about.
Knowledge is
Um,
power, that's for sure.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And then if we actually come to the kind of further considerations here, that's actually one of the main thing to kind of keep in mind. So the intentions behind the choices. There are so many different ways of doing incentive plans, and there's no kind of right or wrong for all companies. So it differs for every company what's the right model for you, but it should be an intention, like it should be a decision that has been made to do it in a specific way, and not kind of just following the market without actually understanding why. Also, the instrument choice, of course, there are so many different ways of putting up an incentive plan with different instruments. It could be options, it could be a performance share plan, it could be a restricted share unit. So it can be a lot of different tools that you can use. And also here, it's really good to design the right tool for you, because they work in a very different way, and they also steer in a different way, and also kind of they are designed to work in different scenarios. And last but not least, communication, such an important part of incentive plans. So once you have designed a really good incentive plan, there's the risk of, if you don't communicate it and people don't understand it, it won't be incentivizing. And as you already mentioned, Jessica, before, it's kind of the thing that you need to keep in mind, like why are we doing this? And if the incentive plan is not understandable, how can it actually incentivize? And therefore, the understanding of the plan, the education of the employees, of the participants, is so important, because it's actually quite a costly tool. So it's one of the most expensive tools that you are using. So therefore, it's really important that the people you're offering it to understand the value of it and how it works and what they should do to get a better outcome, for example.
Yeah, and it has the greatest return, right? If you do it right, if you communicate it right, if you use the right instrument, it can have a huge impact on your company and on your employees' well-being and your, executives' well-being as well. I love all of these things to keep in mind. And we did add some questions here for those considerations. Ask yourself, how does this help, right? What do you want out of the plan? Again, think those strategies, defining those strategies, understanding what do you and where do you sit in the company and how can you make that impact in the plan design stage? What is right for the field you're in? And like we said with the peer groups, if you're valuing against the wrong peer group, you're not doing what's right and you're not going to have the right metrics to show that you're improving and that you're doing the right things. And where is your company's present and future goals, identifying and clarifying which strategy they are in so that you have the end goal in mind, you have your why, and you can get there in a stronger manner. So I love all these few further considerations and definitely things to keep in mind the whole time you're doing your new plan design or a revamp of your plan design. So with that, if there are any questions you all have, and, thank you for joining us at the webinar, feel free to send us an email. We're always available to chat. Anna's our plan design expert, so we can help you, again, revamp your plan design or start a brand new one. Anna, any last words?
No, but yeah, please reach out if you have any questions. We can have a call and discuss your plan design, and if you are having any issues or thoughts, or just want to kind of hear a bit about the trends that is going on right now, we are really happy to have a discussion about that.
Thanks, Anna, for chatting with us today. I'm so excited that we get to add plan design to our list of offerings. And, check out our health check for anyone here on our website. We will send out the link to that as well. And have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.